Welcome to this quantum security and defense presentation, the quantum threat landscape, implementing cryptographic agility for security at scale, and thank you for being a valued member of our community. Francis Gorman is an accomplished cybersecurity professional and host of the Entropy podcast. With a proven track record in security consultancy, cloud security architecture, and as a principal security architect at Bank of Ireland, Francis brings a wealth of expertise to every stage he takes. Over the course of his career, he has developed a deep understanding of cybersecurity principles and practices, applying them to real-world challenges across industries. Marin Ivezic is the founder of Applied Quantum, a consulting firm dedicated to helping organizations prepare for the opportunities and threats of quantum technology. He previously led cybersecurity and quantum technology practices at a Big Four firms, as well as at IBM and Accenture. And he also served as a CISO and CTO at Fortune Global 500 companies. With over 3 decades of relevant experience and over a decade of experience working on quantum readiness initiatives with governments and critical infrastructure organizations,
do our own version of reminding everyone what makes those quantum computers such a risk that we are meeting every week and discussing it. Where is the trust in our systems? And I will start with Marin.
Thank you, Anna, and thanks for the nice introduction. And I've admitted quite a few people while you were talking, so I'll just use the opportunity to remind everyone, please post the questions, please make this discussion interactive, and let's try and make it useful and fun. I don't think we need to go to the most basic reasons why quantum computers are considered a security threat, because, well, that's why we are all here and joining in every week. But there are a couple of things I can highlight, and then we'll hand it over to Francis. The first one is I'm quite old, and I've been listening to this story for decades. First time in late 90s or in 2000 when the vendors started saying that they have insider information that quantum computers are coming next week and we should all buy quantum safe cryptography. So that story has been going on for a long time. And I think why now and why are now considered a security serious threat? Because for various reasons, which we can discuss later, lots of foundational science problems have been solved over the last 2 years, especially. So by any measure, by any expert opinion, the quantum computers are now, this time, really 5 to 10 years away. And that has all kinds of implications. It means that we have to now, for reals, start preparing for the quantum threat. It also means that adversaries are now much more motivated to invest into the harvest now, decrypt later, basically trying to soak as much data as possible with the idea of decrypting it later. There is this other angle, which is, trust now, forge later, potentially impacting digital signatures or forging digital signatures retroactively. And with all of that, so with the awareness that the quantum computers are now really materializing, with the intelligence and national security agencies warning us for years about harvest now, decrypt later, and related threats, it now also means that the whole ecosystem is moving. The insurers, the stakeholders, the regulators, the national security agencies, they're all now creating pressure on securing the enterprises and critical infrastructure against the quantum threat. And the long story short, that's why it's now a serious security threat. That's why we have to start doing something now.
Thank you, Marin. Francis, I would love to hear also your perspective to add how that looks, in the banks, in the finance. Why suddenly this is actual risk
So I think, Anna, thanks for inviting me in. Thanks for the lovely introduction. It's great to be here with Marin, and I think I have a bit of imposter syndrome after looking through the list. I recognize quite a few of the names on here. It's great to see this cohort coming together and such an intelligent community sharing ideas. So in terms of the financial industry and why is this such a risk? Well, last week I spent a week in Bilbao in Spain with the Quantum Safe Financial Forum, the Europol splinter group that looks specifically at quantum readiness, quantum risk, and quantum advantage. And I had a lot of robust discussions with physicists and mathematicians and different cybersecurity professionals across the area. And the more we talked about it, the more apparent it is that regardless of a quantum computer comes in 5 years, 10 years, or 15 years, the complexity and the rate of change that needs to happen is going to take that long for large institutions to get a handle on. So the complexity is multi-layered. It's the ability to have the right people to make the changes you need for your environment, the capacity within your test environments to run this along with all of the other changes that you need, the understanding of the dependencies between systems. It's very complex, and the larger the footprint of the organization and the more legacy considerations, that creates problems, and the more vendors and third-party services that creates problems. So really starting now is to contextualize the problem for your organization and try to understand what that start point is. What are the people I need? What is the technology that needs to be utilized? And what are the quick wins? Can we do some TLS 1.3 front door services? Do we need a strategy for customers if we have different applications that need to authenticate to? Have we got device considerations for those cohorts of people as well? Some people don't have hardware that can handle quantum potentially. So it's all of these different nuanced problems that you start to come across. So for me, it's now a clock problem. The clock is ticking. We know that the physics and the maths is coming together, and we're now kind of into a hardware problem. And once we get those three components of memory, basic, and advanced operations work simultaneously, that's a problem. And
Yeah.
once we get up to that level of logical qubits we need to break RSA or asymmetric encryption, that's when the problem starts. So it's really, we need to thinking about what the complexities are and how do we move the organizations that we're in forward to solve for those complexities.
Yeah, I think there are two words that you both already mentioned that are very important too in this conversation. We won't avoid complexity. It is complex, it is difficult, and I think that the whole purpose of this conversation also today, and generally starting already now, is to navigate those complexities early enough and with a full awareness that one has to constantly adapt because this field is moving. But there is also the word trust. And I think there is lots of loaded, right? There is the trust that we've been talking about it already for so many years. And there is plenty of people that simply do not trust that it is now finally the moment. And there is also the trust that comes on a technical level when the computers can break that. And I would like to now give it to Marin and talk about that, decrypt, harvest now, decrypt later. We have the trust now, forge later, and all of that impacts trust. Could you take it from there?
Of course, and thanks. And I really love the opportunity to talk about, especially about the trust now, forge later aspect in this group. So I'm pretty sure that everyone here knows about the harvest now, decrypt later, because that's been discussed for years, and that's what the security agencies have been warning us. It is about stealing data today to decrypt them and break the confidentiality in 5 or 10 years. I do want to highlight a little bit this trust now, forge later, or I used to call it before, sign today, forge tomorrow, whatever. The idea is that the Shor's algorithm and the quantum computers are not just impacting potentially the confidentiality of sensitive data, which we all understand and we've discussed it many times, but they also could be used to forge digital signatures, which means they can forge digital signatures on documents. They can retroactively. But even more importantly, and that's the point I want to keep highlighting, is they can impact the cyber physical systems or the OT, IoT operating organizations, where through this trust now forge later, they can forge software update signatures, which will allow them to inject malicious code into the OT enterprises. They could potentially inject malicious commands or authorize themselves to inject malicious commands into the OT systems and critical national infrastructure operators. And this is rarely talked about, but in my mind, it's a bigger risk. It's a risk of causing potentially cyberkinetic impacts or safety impacts, impacting the lives, the well-being, the environment by sabotaging, OT operating infrastructure organizations by basically breaking the integrity of the data rather than just confidentiality and stealing information. So yes, it's all about the trust, as you say. It's the root of the trust that could be broken with quantum computers in theory.
You can join the CUSEC-DEF community to watch the full version of this and over 80 other lectures on quantum technologies, attend events, receive free training, and more. CUSEC-DEF is a users community working to forward quantum secure communications. The community is represented by Quantum Security and Defense that provides supply chain orchestration and consulting services on behalf of our members. Find out more. Google quantumsecuritydefense.com today.